to the HomeBuyer's Hour on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And normally we try to bring in a real estate agent, and we kind of talk about the professionalism in our industry and the guidance that we give to our clients. But this week, our real estate agent canceled on us. So unbelievably rude, right?
Well, Charlie, if you remember, we had 2 last week. So,
oh, that's right. It evens out.
Yeah, we've got to have a week where we just let things air out a little bit.
So today's going good, or today's going to be unique, and I'm actually excited about it because I've always been proud doing this show with Patrick and Joey. I think they're 2 of the smartest people in the real estate business that I know. And we're going to focus more on uniqueness about using the attorney as your advisor, how to find a good mortgage broker, and same thing with some of the ancillary services. Are they actually needed in the home inspection business or not? And then we're all going to be challenging each other on how legitimate this stuff is. And I think these guys are strong enough and good enough that they could withstand just about every challenge. But first, I want to let them introduce themselves. So, Patrick, if you don't mind, give everybody a rundown who you are and why you're so special.
My name is Patrick Loftus. I am an attorney. I am with Loftus Law. My primary practice area is residential real estate transactions. I don't dabble in other stuff for the most part.
And that's a big deal.
It really is, in my opinion. I feel like the more energy that you devote to a thing, the better you're going to get at it. I mean, it shouldn't be surprising to anyone to say that, if I practice a certain thing 8 hours a day, I'm going to reap the benefits of that in a different way than someone who's practicing something for a half hour a day or even 4 hours a day. So that's what you get, among other things, is someone who's legitimately, well, I say 8 hours, but if you put a camera on me and measured the legitimately how much I work, let's just call it 8 hours. Come on.
I think the number one thing that everybody wants in an advisor is experience. That's the biggest key. And if you're going to be getting 2% experience in real estate, 2% in divorce, 2% in collision, auto accidents, I'm making stuff up, of course, but then you're not even a master of anything. You're just a juggler.
Yeah, I've experienced that as well. I do have a broad background. My first 2 jobs were what they would call general practice, and you really feel it that, hey, I'm trying to wear too many hats. There's just not enough room on this head, and it feels better to be in one specific thing. And I feel like you see that in a lot of places where specialization, finding a niche, finding who you are, what you want to do, it then will tend to lead you to the people who need that. If you're trying to be everything to everyone, you really aren't anything.
That makes a lot of sense.
You can sell dish soap to everybody.
Yeah.
But you can't really sell, in my opinion, unless I've got 100 attorneys on staff, which I don't, just one, me. I don't see how I'm going to serve. I don't see how I can be a general practice law firm.
I got you, and I want to dwell on that or dwell into that a little bit more. But first, I want people to meet Joey Mathews. Joey, if you don't mind, give us a shout who you are and why you're special.
Hi, friends. I'm Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, the VA loan nerd at the Federal Savings Bank. You can call me at 630-235-2405. Find me at thevaloannerd.com or across all social media as at the VA Loan Nerd. What makes me special is my incredible amount of anxiety in making sure that I do the right thing for the right people, or not for the right people, for everybody that I can help out.
They make medication for that, Joey.
They do make medication.
They do.
It might be in short supply right now. But
hey, that's why I'm a little weirdo with making sure that T's are crossed, I's are dotted, all those good things I know we've talked about in the past. But yeah, I treat every transaction like it's my house. I'm buying the house, and I'm just doing it on your behalf, document-wise, I guess.
Well, before we get into that, what's going on in the economy for us that affects mortgages?
What is going on? Nothing really crazy right now. nothing really crazy. Minus obviously looking at the government argue over the debt ceiling and defaulting, not defaulting, all these things.
Yeah, I don't put too much credence in any of that.
Me neither.
They're not going to default.
No, I let it go in one year and out the other.
Yeah.
I'm trying to ignore all that stuff.
Let me know when y'all sort that out. I'm over here, busy with my own stuff.
Right. No, but I mean, inflation report came in slightly light last week. Last week being May 10th. It was anticipated. It was predicted by people with bigger brains than me that it would. And the markets reacted very shortly, and now the 10-year Treasury yield is trading right at 3.5% again. So I think that's kind of where things are going to be for the short term, is a 3.5 Treasury and rates kind of sticking based off of that. And mortgage-backed securities market really hasn't moved terribly the last week. So
okay,
yeah, that's
seems
where we're
like
at,
everything
man.
is stabilizing.
It seems to be. It seems to be until the next wild report comes out and everyone's like, oh my God, the world's ending again. Blah.
Is this what they talk about when they mention soft landing? I've heard that term
The soft
before.
landing. Yeah, so they're talking. Yeah, the soft landing is we're not going to. We're going to continue increasing rates, and the economy is going to come back down to.
You're saying that like you're mocking them, Joey. I love it.
Dude, I absolutely am. Because no one's Nostradamus. I'm not Nostradamus. I just call it like I see it.
Yeah.
They want to get down to a 2% inflation rate without creating a recession or having a recession happen. Obviously, if the government defaulted, then we would immediately be going into a recession. But the soft landing is avoiding a recession completely and dropping our inflation down to a 2%.
If that did happen, that would get the attention of a lot of voters. That's for sure.
It sure would.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that what they say publicly, I imagine is perhaps somewhat different than what they say privately.
Oh yeah.
What the Fed says, it moves markets, and so they're very, very careful about the words they use.
It should be.
And it is, until fairly recently, it was underappreciated how much people's expectations drove inflation. If you are expecting, say, you take, for example, a country like Argentina, where they've got inflation that would, probably cause people to, I don't know, go to the Capitol and storm it or something. The culturally,
we got a lie rolling going on over here. I'm just saying.
Culturally speaking, though, it's very much if you have it, spend it now, because it's going to be worth so much less tomorrow and the next day, which is, I'm sure, a lot of fun, but also a lot. That's not a world I'd want to live in. Right. I kind of like stable is boring, but sometimes boring is what you need. It's
what I need. And I expect, because you mentioned expectations, I actually expect to have gentle increases in prices. I expect raises. I expect to increase our prices and things that cost more. I just try to stay ahead of the game as much as I can. So, Joey, how does, one of the things I kind of wanted to take from the loan business and stuff like that, and hopefully people are going to start writing notes on this, is, when they start going through the process and you get these referrals from your real estate agents, or I don't know, does somebody find you on Google for, or do they find you strictly through, a real estate agent that they're working with?
I mean, I'm definitely Googleable.
Is that a word?
See what happens. I'm gonna pull up.
Googleable might be a word. Look it up.
That's a tough one.
So if you Google my name, Joey Mathews with one T, I am the first thing that pops up. So enjoy. You can find me there. But the first thing that happens when I talk to a client, is that what you just asked?
Hey,
Sorry, I got hooked on the Google.
No, that's all good. I guess the question is, if somebody's looking for a mortgage person, and I guess let me back up a little bit. What percentage do you think, and I know it's a guess and I'm not holding it to anything, but what percentage do you think are competent mortgage brokers as opposed to incompetent mortgage brokers? I'll tell you right now, I'll say it's 80-20 in the home inspection business, all right? And 20 is not the good ones. Or I'm sorry, 20 is the good ones, 80 is the bad ones. And Patrick's over here rolling his eyes because he knows I'm going to ask him that.
I was about to say I would flip that number because I'm way more pessimistic, but then with what you just said, I was like, yeah, no, that's actually what I would think.
And Devin, thank you, our producer, Devin Tingle. He actually looked up Googleable, and it is a legitimate word, so we're good for this. He found the definition. So
I'm not as stupid as you think I am.
So how do we keep people from falling victim to predatory or just, an immoral person out there doing loans, or somebody who is lazy? How do you recognize that?
Man, I have one right now hey, guess what? It's a VA loan. They found me through a referral over the interweb. They're PCSing. They're not PCSing. They're EASing. They're ending their active service in the Marines in a couple of months, and they got pre-approved by another company.
You don't have to say the company.
No, I'm going to say it because I hate them. It's Veterans United. They're garbage. If you're a veteran working with them, you're doing nothing for veterans. Anyway, so they pre-approved them with income that they're not going to have in 3 months because they're ending their active service. So I'm actually going to be having the conversation with the buyer after we get off the radio today. But yeah, it's insane the things that I see other lenders do that. I'm just like, how is this a pre-approval? You have their pay stub, their leave and earnings statement. That's a LES. That's what the military uses for a pay stub, and it says when their active duty tour is ending, and it's in 3 months. That's not income that's going to be qualified. What do you do? So now I'll have a conversation with her about what we're going to do after service. I know that she's transitioning into a job, but there's no salary involved, so I'll get a solution for her, but they're pre-approved based off of income that doesn't exist. And
well, go into more detail about that. What income does count when you're talking about?
So, if you're in the military, then we have to show that your EAS date, your end of active service date, or your I forget what the Army calls it, but your term obligation is at least 12 months out, right? We want to see continuity of income.
And what about if you're not in the military? How long do you want to have a job?
Well, okay. Well, loaded question. So if you are going into a field that you have an educational background for, the day that you start the job, we can qualify that income. If you're starting a job that you have work history for, the day that you start that job, if it's a salary, then we can qualify that income. The times that we have issues is if we have variable income where your hours fluctuate, right? Because then we want to see a 2-year average so we can see what the expectancy of future income would be, right?
Okay.
If we have a salary and we have an offer letter and it's non-contingent, I can close on an offer letter before you start the job as long as the contingencies have been lifted with the stated salary in there. So there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. It's just talking to someone and finding the way that works for their situation.
And what about if somebody owns a business or something like that? Let's take me, where I do have earned income from the business, but we also take dividends from the business. Does that affect what I'm able to borrow?
Yeah, so I mean, I have another one like this. It's a doctor, but So if you're going with a conventional loan and you have owned a business for 5 years, we only need to see the most recent year of tax returns. Going Freddie Mac. If you are going Fannie Mae, we have to see the most recent 2 years of tax returns, both personal and business, and then we actually go through the line item. The line income items, and we find out what your actual income is for mortgage purposes. Client I have right now, their CPA files non-recurring income of about, I'm not going to say how much, but it's a lot of money. Non-recurring income. And technically, when they file it as non-recurring, we have to subtract that from your qualifying number, right? Unless we talk to the CPA and we find out what the non-recurring income is and see if we actually have a history of receipt and why they file it as non-recurring, right? So in this situation, it is income that is derived from not directly business activities, but the business that they're in, if that makes any sense, right? So it's not people coming to the office, receipts, sales, all that stuff happening, but they're paying for, oh my gosh, it's so hard to explain. Different things that are related to the business that they're in, but they're not a business activity.
Like a residual or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we can show that there's a history of receipt of that type of income, even if it's filed as non-recurring because it's not an expected income, then we can actually add that money back in. So there's a lot that goes into it. If you see if you're running an income worksheet and you're a mortgage person and you see a huge negative number for your qualifying number, go back and see where that number's coming from, and then talk to the tax preparer, talk to the CPA, find out what it is, and if it's actually something you can get added back in.
So that big money I'm making off of TikTok as a social media influencer, that would be non-recurring income.
That would be non-recurring income. But if
he
you
makes
have a
money
history
every
of
month?
if you have a history of it, well, but he's an attorney, right? So unless he creates a separate business for his TikTok account, then different thing.
Yeah, it could cost me more to file the LLC than I've made so far.
Actually, I know that's relatively cheap, but wait a minute. How much have you? No, we won't get into how much money an influencer makes.
Do you want me to just pull out my tax return? You know, hey,
No, I don't want to see your tax return.
It's not enough to quit my law job, which is why I'm sitting here with y'all right now.
I love it. We're having fun.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to switch gears in a little bit here. I want to get over to Patrick and talk about some other issues. But, give me two questions. Two questions, if I'm a borrower, that I should be asking every mortgage person.
Two questions that you should be asking every mortgage
If
person.
I'm going to hire you, what should I ask you to see if you're worthy of me?
He's delaying.
Man, what time is it right now? Oh my gosh, I called you at 8 p.m. and you picked up the phone? All right. That's good, right? Sorry,
right.
but
No,
if someone's...
contact and availability, I think, is an excellent question.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, Joey, just I'll give you some time to think up some stuff, because I can tell you from yesterday a story about a client of mine. I represent the seller, but the buyer is using my favorite. You don't like the one that rhymes with pocket mortgage. I don't like the one that rhymes with.
Stop trashing other businesses.
I don't like the one that well, we're never getting any money from Pocket or Schmace.
Oh God.
AP Morgan, Schmace.
Oh God, I hope
Bank.
they're not advertisers on this station.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Sorry, 820.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Keep going. We might be doing a little bit of editing, folks, if you want to see a different show.
Yeah, the progressive.
Great depository institution.
There it is.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, they're kind of. Wow, I was going to use words I can't use. They're kind of bad at mortgages. Anyways, I'm trying to call every which number I can find anywhere in the file to just find out there's something weird going on with the condo approval, and just I can't. The numbers aren't even going through. Like the one number I dialed it was by the time I got to even a recording, it was like, yeah, we don't think you might have. We think you might have dialed the wrong number. But hey, stick on the line because we've got a great deal on health insurance. I'm just like, I said words I'm not allowed to say right now, but you can imagine which ones. But that's the kind of thing that I expect out of AP Morgan Schmace, and it's like, this is the type of thing that I need the anxiety medication. I need Joey to share his with me.
It's marijuana.
Oh, all right. We can. All right.
Yeah,
Holy cow!
it's
You
legal
guys
there.
now you're all trying to get me worried over here.
We can say the word. We can't say what we do with the word.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Let's stick to that, and then we'll change the subject real quick. Unbelievable.
We have too much fun. I'm sorry.
Patrick, how
boy.
about you, though? I mean, seriously, I think that a lot of people think all of us are commodities, and we're all the same that comes in there. And access to somebody I think is important, going back with Joey and stuff like that. But, Joey, how do you get the point across to somebody that says, listen, I'm going to give you a lot of work up front. You're going to be sending me documents today, but you're going to be thankful for me a month from now when you're not scrambling and then all of a sudden you have to lose the house because there's a delay in the loan and they sold it to someone else. How do you explain that to somebody in 30 seconds?
I mean, basically what you just said, right? I never realized how nuts I kind of am on the front end until I talk to other people that ask me, like, how do you get people to commit? How do you get people to commit? I'm like, I don't really get them to commit. I tell them what I need, and they do the things that I need. Maybe I'm forceful. I'm not sure. I don't like to feel like I'm pushy because I don't like the idea that I'm technically a salesperson. But I definitely impress upon them the importance of getting things to me so I can make sure they close, right? And make sure that they are, at least as a borrower, in my eyes, clear to close. Because the first time I come out of underwriting, the only things I want to see is maybe homeowners insurance, title insurance, and needing the appraisal if I don't have a waiver on it, right? Because that means I did my job. I pre-approved a buyer in a very clean manner because I have 0 borrower conditions coming out of my initial underwrite. So,
and that's my point. Not a lot of people end up doing that sort of stuff, and that's what I think makes you extremely unique, is that you go above and beyond.
I can imagine whereas you are just from the get-go saying these are the things we need to do. I have a process, and let's just get started with it. I think a lot of people would they'd be afraid to do that because they would not want to scare people off. Now. I can appreciate
and
where
they'd
that
be in the mortgage brokers, right?
Yeah. And I can appreciate that sentiment. However, I think that there's a lot of merit in the way that Joey's describing it, in that if someone is scared off by that, I would think that you kind of want them to self-select out of your of being your customer, because they're probably not that serious about being your customer. So,
or even if they are, they might be deceitful. They might be hiding something. Who knows what the reason is? But whatever it is, if you're not willing to jump through these hoops, because everybody has to jump through the hoops eventually, right, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. You're either going to do it up front or you're going to do it at the end, and you're going to be like, how come I didn't do this earlier? This is such a pain in the butt. This is a terrible mortgage process.
Right there is where I was going.
Yeah.
And that's what I found when everybody asked me about home inspections and problems and people complaints, and I go back to fireman school. Put the fire out. The faster you put the fire out, the faster all the problems go away. So get these things going in here. But anyways, thank you, Joey. I really appreciate that. That's good advice when it comes to, questions to ask. And if you're just filling out the computer stuff, I'm sorry. There needs to be a human being involved in this, because that human being is going to know the nuances. Even though they have a lot of great programs out there for software and automation, and I use a lot of them, it's not always the thing to do when you're getting to the mortgages. And same thing with the attorneys. It's not the same thing there. And when I find an attorney such as you, Patrick, I know you're going pretty heavy on the 7.0 contract that most of the northern Illinois suburbs use, and you're breaking it down piece by piece, which I think is phenomenal. How is that going anyway?
Well, I think I've done 7 reels. That is what Instagram calls them. I also put them up on TikTok. If you want to follow me on Instagram, by the way, it's Loftus_law. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can be follower number 59 if you're the next one. And that's
out of the 40s and into the 50s. I love it.
It's just one every week. It's great. Loftus Law is my @ on TikTok.
Right.
But even I am surprising myself a little bit in how sort of slow and meticulous I have to be in terms of describing all of the stuff that's in there, especially page 1. So I sort of distracted myself. I've done 7 90-second videos, and I've just finished paragraph 3. So I'm not even off the first page.
Wow. And
it's a 13-page contract. Now some pages are going to take longer than others. The first page certainly has a lot on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just taking this 13-page document is probably got my it's got my social media posting schedule basically booked up for probably the next 6 months if I keep at it.
Give us some scoops. What were the things that you were talking about in those?
Well, let's talk, for example, the very first line that you have to fill stuff in. So that would be line 2. I believe that's buyer. So it's nothing is ever simple when you're talking about a contract.
I like the way you're giggling when you're thinking about the answer.
No, I'm
right?
just so in terms of a buyer, it's funny how that is so. It seems so simple, but it can get complicated. Even something as simple as whether or not to use someone's middle initial, middle name. That's also something where you might reach out to Joey and ask how their name looks on the loan application, because then that's gonna flow through, and you're not gonna have to make a silly addendum later on to sort out.
Those two have to match?
They should.
I mean, how match? Are we talking about like Charles M. Bellefontaine? Are we talking about C. Bellefontaine? What is it? Yeah.
So I mean, look, you want to get it right, but right. I lost my train of thought. But
it's important too, because if you're not adding a middle initial for whatever reason, and there happens to be another Charles Bellefontaine out there, when a title company does a record search for you, and some other Charles Bellefontaine somewhere in the world or in the U.S. had a foreclosure reported on him, then you have to go through the whole personal identity. Something I can't remember.
The
PIA,
the personal information affidavit. Yeah. So and really, I'll even get kind of. Let me tell you a silly reason why it's important to get that right. I would, if I were to want to get right, if I were to ask the person, how do you want your name? I would ask them how they sign their name. If a person just signs the two names, I wouldn't use a middle initial, because by the time we get to closing, all those loan docs, if you've used a middle initial and they don't typically sign with the middle initial, now they're going to change their signature for these loan docs. And it seems simple and silly, and really it is, but it subtracts some amount of ease in that process. If I've got to apply my signature 50 times, which I'm not exaggerating, I mean, plus or minus, and I've got to remember every time to include or not include the middle initial, it is going to subtract some amount from the experience from me. I'm going to be a little annoyed with whoever is responsible for that. And I cannot tell you, it's like there's like something karmic out there where if somebody does use a middle initial in their signature, like 90% of the time, the loan docs will not have a middle initial, or vice versa. If they do, the loan docs won't. If they don't, the loan docs will, and it's annoying. And then the one that's even more annoying, and I don't think I've seen Redfin do this lately, but they used to do this all the time, is using the full first, middle, and last name on the contract, which would then flow through into the loan docs. And now we're looking at signing all three names, which almost nobody does.
Oh, especially with my name. God almighty, I'd have a broken wrist by the end of this thing is done.
Exactly. It's simple stuff, but it's that kind of attention to detail is going to produce a slightly better result for the client. And you get enough of those added together, now you're talking about a meaningful amount of improvement or taking away from that experience. I don't know.
Do you talk to the loan officer during a transaction?
Yeah, I mean, I will. Usually if I have questions for the loan officer, if it's early on, it will probably have to do with a credit that we're trying to get, and if I can fit it into, if there is enough space. What are my limits in terms of how much credit we can negotiate? That'll usually be the kind of question that comes up early in the transaction. Later in the transaction is probably where the most communication will be with the lender, because I will, at a certain point, be needing to know if they're clear to close. When we get to that mortgage contingency deadline, it is customary, and I think most lawyers do this. You would request extensions of the mortgage contingency until you have that clear to close. It's just how we do it. That
would be a good message to get out to real estate agents, because they're the ones that fill out the blanks in these contracts, right? The contract's filled out before you get it.
Well, and those aren't the details they're focused on, right? They're focused on the details that's going to get an offer accepted. So purchase price, earnest money, as is. Those are the kinds of things that they're focused on. And if I'm trying to move quick, if I'm trying to get my offer in as fast as possible, I might decide that detail is something that can get worked out later.
Okay.
Fair enough. That at least that's a strategic decision.
Yeah.
It's not something that's just being left up to, it's not my problem, or it's not something I'm worried about. I don't necessarily need anyone to worry about it, so to speak, but the more attention to detail as far as something that it doesn't take that much to kind of sort out the details on that. It's like I said, going to produce a more enjoyable process for someone who is, that's what we're just a service business, right?
It is a service business. So what's line 3 and 4?
Line 3 is seller. So I didn't even finish line 2. That's the best part about
It was only a name.
it. So
I
okay,
love it.
right? It's only a name. But I'm a lawyer. I get so granular on these details because it's how.
Because you went to school to be granular.
well,
Because
but
I'm going to jump in there and say it's probably because you've seen where your experience has shown other headaches that have happened from these things. So you use that to avoid the headaches from happening in the future.
it's a trauma response.
Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of trauma.
I could buy into
being a
that.
lawyer. So another thing to be cognizant of is if somebody has estate planning. So if they have, if you have a living trust, typically, I mean, if someone's, if in their 40s plus and they have a spouse, they have children, you're going to start to want to ask these questions about whether or not they have estate planning, because an estate plan will typically envisage that you are going to be owning your primary residence in the name of the trust, not in your individual name. More often than not, so what'll typically happen, and I'll give the example if I'm representing someone on the purchase of a home and then they sell their home. So the purchase, I will have no idea that they have an estate plan. We go through the process, loan docs, all that stuff, and they end up taking title in their individual capacity, and I come to find out that they owned their previous residence in a trust. And I go, those were questions that should have been asked up front here, and we should have probably got the estate planning attorney involved to ask them, how do you recommend that we do this to make sure that the estate plan remains viable? Because once that house is outside of the trust, you've probably impaired the usefulness of that estate plan in some significant way, and often it doesn't get rectified in the future. And I guess that's more work that the estate planning lawyer can bill for, but also God forbid someone passes and their estate plan kind of fell by the wayside. It's a problem for the next people.
I know in our family that's a big issue right now that we're going through, and it's a hard one emotionally because we never want to plan for our death, but
No.
I'll let everybody who's listening in on a secret. You're going to die. All right, we don't
don't
know
know
when
that.
it's going to
You don't
happen.
know that.
You're going to die and you're going to pay taxes.
I'm
Time to go
Those
deal
uploading.
two
with my
things I will
anxiety.
guarantee.
I'm uploading my consciousness to the cloud,
Oh
and
my God, I would love that. I think I just watched a movie on.
I'm gonna live on through AI.
yeah,
God.
I think it was like Citadel or something. They had to stab themselves with needles to get their memories back.
yeah. Usually it's some sort of dystopian thing. Like it's like a Black Mirror thing where it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Joey, how do people get hold of you if they want to ask questions about this stuff?
Oh, well, you can call or text me at 630-235-2405. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com or across all social media as at the VA Loan Nerd.
Do you talk to your clients in that same sexy voice, or do you switch
why-
it up otherwise?
That's why they just go, yes, sir. What do you need
Yes,
from
sir,
me?
right away, sir. I'll give
Initial
you
phone
anything.
call. Initial phone call and closing day only. That's it.
All right, that's all good. That makes them get to the end process. Patrick, how about you? How do they get hold of you?
Yeah, we talked about this last week. I'm not particularly fond of phone calls from random phone numbers for, I don't know, Devin, you get any phone calls from any weirdos? Rather, I would prefer you email me, patrick@loftus.law. You can also slide into my DMs, Loftus_law on Instagram, Loftus Law on TikTok.
And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Again, that's 312-544-9180. And one of the problems we have in the home inspection business is, especially running a business, and I'm sure you guys have the same way, is finding, juggling. Basically, I got so many darn balls in the air, and then if I don't go ahead and get everything done, now I'm neglecting everybody or every one of those balls, all right? And you do stuff like that, and then all of a sudden your reviews go down, and we haven't been there. I kind of stopped myself once I got to the juggling. So I want to give a little bit of a plug for a company that helped me get a virtual assistant. It's called Reliant VA, and that's reliantva.us. So I'm going to throw a little plug out to them. And, I'm sorry to say, but there's people throughout this world that are intelligent, they're smart, they're hardworking, yet the area that they live in, what we see as $7 an hour is being piddly money. All of a sudden that gives somebody a pretty nice lifestyle in another part of this world. And you can do some things to help other people out there. So if you are a small business and you are a little bit overwhelmed and you're looking to try and get rid of some of that, those balls in the air that are juggling, please reach out to reliantva.us and hopefully they can help you. And, Joey, I don't know how much you get into with the home inspection and the ancillaries and stuff. I don't think you hardly even see a report, but Patrick, you do see a lot of reports that comes in there.
I do.
How does it feel to you when somebody buys the sewer scope, the radon test, the termite inspection, the pool, the irrigation, chimneys, when all of a sudden all these things that are not normal inspections and all of a sudden you're having like 8 more reports coming into you?
From my perspective, for a buyer, I think that the more information you can get, the better.
I agree.
I haven't come across a situation where I thought to myself, I wish I didn't know that. Now, then again, maybe I put that in the wrong way, because sometimes you would really, really want to buy a house and you find out it's got a cracked foundation or something. You
It's
go,
heartbreaking.
I wish I wouldn't have known that, but not in the sense that I'm saying it in the sense that it comes back sometime in the future to bite you that you didn't do enough. Now, how much is enough? How much is too much? Boy, I mean, I think ultimately you got to trust your gut. You got to trust the people that you put in place to advise you for the process, because ultimately, if you're only going to buy a house 3, 4, 5 times in your life,
right,
you're not going to be an expert in it. I don't care how competent people. I think it, and it makes sense, but people consistently overestimate how good they're going to be at buying a house and having it be a legitimate investment.
Well, it's easy. All you do is go in there, you put your name on a piece of paper and sign a few more times, and they give you keys and have a nice day.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, look, there's people out there legitimately buying and selling real estate as an investment, and it's their job, and it's what they do and they think about all the time. Now, do you think, as someone that's going to...
You're bringing up a good point.
Do you think that someone that does this 3, 4, 5 times is going to be as good? Of course not. They can't be.
No.
I would say...
Goes back to that experience level.
Yeah, and they go, well, but I'm really good at my job. And I'd be like, awesome. So when I need the thing that you do at your job, I'm going to come to you as the subject matter expert, and I'm going to rely on your advice to then hopefully make the best decision. But if you flip it on the other side of the coin, that's where we come in. And so when somebody comes in with, if you've got a 70-foot sewer line, probably stick a camera in there and see if it is...
Or depending on the age. And I want to kind of dwell on that a little bit. Sure. I'm going to take my liberty on that one.
I'm going to take your advice on this because you're the subject matter expert. I'm just the lawyer.
Exactly. So, but like for radon, for example, I'm probably one of the worst businessmen in the world. And a lot of people say, well, every house should be tested for radon, so just pay the money and test for radon. We charge $260 in today's money to do a radon test. And if you own a house, you could do a radon test in your own home for less than $30. You can't do it in somebody else's house unless you're licensed, but you could do it in a house that you own. All right, so there's a big difference in fees in there, you know, and the reason why we charge what we do is the machines, because we need to get the results right away as soon as we pick them up. So we're going to put the machines in there. They have to stay in the house for 2 days or hours longer. And then we pick them up, and we want to get those results and pass them on to the clients and everyone else involved as soon as possible, because that's part of your
we need those
contingencies. Quick. Yeah. So we try to get them done as fast as they can. They can't wait to be mailed to a lab and then come back, right?
No, not going to be very helpful.
And not to mention all of our technicians, they have to be licensed. So we pay our technicians well. That's all there is to it. And, you know, so that we have to put a cost to everything that comes in there. But I don't believe, one other thing that comes in there, typical radon mitigation system on a house with a basement is about $1,500. All right.
Sounds about right.
So now we're talking about what's the risk that somebody's going to take and what's the reward that comes out of there. And then you got to look into the market that comes with it. But like, give me the downtown zip code, you know, or,
well,
like,
okay. So yeah,
give me a 606 something downtown.
You can use 60610. And I know where you're going with this. It's like you can look. There's a website that you could probably tell us about that will tell you, you know, on average, you know, what the radon results are. And to my understanding, from being here with you mainly, and I think some of the other inspectors we've had here, it's that if you're buying a second floor condo in Lakeview, probably not worth it.
Even if it's a slab, it's probably not worth it. Or a crawl space usually comes up low.
If you're buying a house in Naperville, probably do it.
Yeah, so we go, for the zip code that you gave me, the 60610, not one house was over the action level. All right? There were under 100 houses tested in that area.
Yeah, those are mostly
because it's all condos.
Yeah, those are going to be high-rise condos. Mainly.
Exactly. The highest level that was given was 3.6, so you're close to the mitigation level of 4.0 picocuries per liter. But the average is under 1. It's 0.9 picocuries per liter.
Yeah.
So then it comes back to, and not one
Spend
house was over.
On something else.
Exactly. Get in there, and don't get me wrong, I'm an advocate for testing for radon, but move in there.
If you want more single families, you could do 60609 or 08. That's going to be like Bridgeport, Pilsen.
All right, let's do that one real quick. 60609. And...
yeah, silence is bad on the radio.
Thing. No, it's the same thing. Not one house was over the action level that we got in there.
Yeah, then there's going to be a lot of single family with basements, the type of thing where you might start to think, well, gee, should I? But no, after learning from you, and you mentioned, well, you're a crummy businessman because you advise people to weigh their options and weigh the risk reward.
Yeah, it's more I
would say different.
I'm crummy for other reasons.
No, but I mean, look, you want what's best for people, and that makes you a good businessman because you're playing the long game. You're not just trying to pick people's pockets for $200 whenever you can. That is going to make you $200 richer in the short term, but when you give someone honest, genuine advice that they take and they appreciate, that's the win. Because they're gonna write a really nice reward.
Thank you.
They're gonna write a really nice review.
Yeah.
And when their friend is meeting them up for beers and says, "Oh, I just bought a house and I need an inspector," gonna go, "You gotta call this guy Charlie. He's on the up and up.
And hopefully we made an impression. That's the main key. And I'll concede that I have a personality flaw, and I do, and probably more than one. But the biggest flaw that I just can't seem to overcome is I have a very bad habit of treating people the way they treat me. So when you treat me well, I really enjoy being around you. I'm going to treat you 10 times better. I want to be that person. But as soon as somebody's a jerk to me, the horrible jerk Charlie comes out. And I don't like that person, all right? And it's something that I'm trying to get rid of. So because of which, I don't want to be the initiator. I don't like when somebody tries to manipulate me. It actually upsets me quite a bit. And I really believe in my heart that our jobs is to give people advice and let them make their own decision. But they have to be able to get good, educated, all the questions, not just the one I want to feed them. coming in, so they can make that stuff.
Yeah, I feel
One
that.
more zip code I'll throw out there, 60490. This is out west in like the Bolingbrook area. Over 100 houses were done. 63% were over the action level.
Yeah.
Highest one is 31.2.
Oh, wow.
Now,
all right on.
this one, it might be worth spending the $260 to negotiate for that $1,500.
Yeah. If you're out in West Chicago, yeah,
It's
probably.
even higher, yeah.
Yeah.
And Palatine and those areas as well. And same thing, we were talking about sewer scopes too when we came in there. I don't believe, and it's everything comes down to risk and rewards. Now, sewer scopes is more expensive, all right? Typically, if they're going to replace just one section and they have to dig down for the sewer lateral, you're looking at about $4,000, maybe $5,000, somewhere in that ballpark. But you're going to get a lot of plumbers out there, and this is something else I'd like to offer to all of our listeners. Anytime you're going out there for any bid and you want to talk to me, I never charge a talk on the phone, all right? And at least if somebody's not giving you all your options, I'll do my best to give you options. Now, don't get me wrong. If I have to come to your property, we will charge. All right. But if I can go ahead and help give you some advice over the phone, I definitely will. But we have PVC sewer laterals and we have clay tile sewer laterals. All right. And the clay tile ones, I would say over 90% of the time we find something wrong with them. So whether it be a belly, misalignments, whatever, it may affect the flow of the sewage and it may not. All right. But at least you're going to know. A lot of times we find where it does affect it. The PVC sewer laterals, and those started getting installed like around the 80s or such in our areas here. So if it has a white pipe going out of the wall or floor, chances are good that it's going to be a PVC lateral. I would say less than 20% of the time we find a problem with those. All right. They're sealed. We don't get roots coming into them. Where the clay tiles, we get a lot of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one is. I think there's more that goes into the calculation on the risk reward. So,
Sure.
For me, and it,
And me as a homeowner or me as a real estate attorney?
just as a person who does math in their head and tries to come up
All
with a decision. So I'm thinking to myself, so if I've got a PVC and I'm in the city. And what do I got? 25 feet of sewer line. I'm probably going, okay. Charlie told me that only 20% of the time that they find a problem, and even that is then only a percentage of that will actually cause me to experience something bad. I go, all right, I can do the math on that, and I go, don't do the sewer scope. Whereas if I'm up in Killdeer and I'm on a 2.5 acre lot, and yes, it's a PVC, but it's also a 70 foot, 150 foot, whatever. Maybe I'm getting far too much.
No, but I got it. You got a long run, and it's a lot more work too.
Yeah, assuming I'm not on well and septic up there. Yeah, I know what well and septic is. I know that's a $25,000, $35,000 problem if my sewer backs up because I didn't get a sewer scope. Even if it is PVC, I might still go, stick a camera in there just so that I am not going to have my beautiful finished basement where my man cave.
No, it's disgusting if things back up in there, even if it is you.
Let me get my signed Walter Payton jersey is going to get ruined. Oh,
there it is.
Hell no.
There it is. No, I got you. And the same thing when it comes to chimney scans, we call them. When we send a camera up the flue. If it's a clay tile flue liner and people were burning wood in there, I want to say that it was, I'm going to guess we're probably around, again, over the 80% mark, where we're going to end up finding a problem with it. And that's not a cheap repair either. You're looking at $5,000-$6,000 to drop a liner in there. Nobody just patches up cracks anymore. Those days are gone. And then if we find and we could see this without doing the camera, we're going to peek up in there. But if you see the smoke chamber's not purged, that's like $3,000 plus to do that. And then the firebox too is another $1,000. You could be at $10,000 for a wood burning fireplace in a snap of a finger. But yet, if you get yourself a prefabricated fireplace, which I'm not against those, and then they have their own beef vents going up in there. They're gas powered that comes in there. And yeah, we could send a camera up there too, but rarely. I mean, we have found them where they've come apart, but rarely do we ever find a problem with those.
Yeah, I mean, those fireplace issues that get raised on inspection reports are nowhere near as detailed as what you just said. And usually the conclusion, well, there's rarely a conclusion I can draw from it, because I'm left with just a question mark, and it's basically go find a chimney sweep to come in and check this thing out.
Now you're trying to trigger me again.
But I mean, a question I'm going to ask my client at that point is, how much wood are you expecting to burn in this thing? And if the response is, I really don't see myself, being a frequent fireplace person, I go, not for nothing, this is whatever the issue is probably going to come up when you go to sell, because you're not going to fix it, because you're never going to light a fire. But on the other hand, if they say, I do envision, I do see myself sitting by the fire toe, whatever people who are fire saver buyers do with their fire, then we need to learn more about this. I would not light a fire in my fireplace until I knew it was 100% safe, because do I need to say more? I mean, it's pretty obvious.
I've been in the fireman business. You've heard me tell this story before. Anybody who's listening, just do a Google search. I don't even have to give you the address. It's out there on the internet. You just do Red Top Lane house fire. And I assure you that you're going to see a home that I personally did the inspection on. I said that this chimney was unsafe. The rest of the house was beautiful. The sellers really felt in their hearts that it was safe. My clients believed me, the sellers did not. They agreed to bring out another chimney sweep company, one of the bigger ones in the area. They had an appointment on a Wednesday. The sellers had family over on the Sunday prior. They put a fire in there, and all of a sudden, lights started flickering. The alarms went off. When they went upstairs to investigate, it was full of smoke. By the time the fire department got there, it was through the roof, and they lost their whole roof. Obviously, the deal didn't go through. Mm-hmm. And then as a fireman, I could think of a few other issues that come in there.
Yeah, I had a case years ago where someone had a fireplace. They built a big old fire. It was actually an external fireplace. Built a big old fire, middle of the night, all of a sudden it's like, oh, our house is on fire. And,
And I've been on a dozen of those things. And people, and if you do have a wood burner, don't go making it super hot. That's what expands those clay tiles and cracks them, and then you're looking at that $6,000 repair. Mm-hmm. Listen, we're running out of time. We got to go through the hoops here again. I'm sorry.
I'm not done with line 2.
I know you're not. That line 2. I'm so sorry. But Patrick, if somebody wants to learn more about lines 2 through 7, how do they get hold of you?
Oh, man, watch my reels on Instagram, Loftus_law, or you can look at them on TikTok, Loftus Law.
And Joey?
Well, you could call me at 630-235-2405 or text me. Find me at thevaloannerd.com or across social media is at the VA Loan Nerd.
Outstanding. And again, my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. We own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. We consider ourselves one of the best, if not the best company in the Chicagoland area. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors.com. Remember, this is your home. It's your family. It's your investment. It's your everything on your home. And then when you start getting to the advisors, you're going to want to get people that you could trust. I personally trust Patrick Loftus. I personally trust Joey Mathews. And quite frankly, I actually trust myself, too.
I trust
which is
you,
one of the hardest things to say. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give us a quick goodbye. Special thank yous to Devin Tingle for managing us and keeping us on track and on time. Remember, that's ReliantVA.us, ReliantVA.us. And again, my name is Charlie, and I am out.